A former people smuggler could be almost $500,000 richer if the Human Rights Commission has its way. In a report tabled in the federal parliament today, the commission urges the government to pay the man compensation for wrongful detention, a recommendation that's likely to be highly contentious. National Affairs correspondent Heather Hewitt explains.
This is the Al Jenabi family. They live in the western suburbs of Sydney, not far from the Villawood Detention Centre, their first home here. They fled Iraq after the Gulf War in fear of political persecution, and all have refugee status, except for one, their eldest brother Ali, a former people smuggler who arranged for them to come here by boat from Indonesia.
We have an Australian citizen now, almost all of us, just one person who doesn't. We get to say that we're Iraqi Australians or we're Australian Iraqi. But he can't say that. He can't even say I'm Iraqi. Because in Iraq, if he goes, he has no future, no present, no nothing.
Clearly this was a very political case. When one goes through the records in the Department of Immigration, it's clear that it was receiving scrutiny from the very highest levels.
Someone in the government has to address this case and to take a responsibility. Nobody can hide.
Do you think that you will ever get permanent residency here?
I think I deserve it, yeah.
But do you think that's going to happen?
I think if they listen to me, they hear my story, yeah, I think this will happen.
It's a long and complicated story spanning several years of bureaucratic wrangling and court rulings. It's a story the Human Rights Commission has found compelling enough to recommend a huge compensation payout and a government apology. That's not going to happen, but Immigration Minister Chris Bowen is unavailable for interviews to explain why not. The story begins in Iraq, where Ali Al Jenabi hailed from a large and comfortable family. Everything changed after the Gulf War, when he and his father and brother were jailed in the notorious Abu Ghraib prison for lack of allegiance to Saddam Hussein's regime. His brother was killed.
I try, to not remember what happened to him. So because I was there, I still until, sometime I smell the blood and then I hear the screaming of the torture.
Soon after release, Ali and the remaining family fled to neighbouring Iran, but with no papers, they faced deportation back to Iraq. That's when they settled on Australia as an option. A written application failed, so Ali, as leader of the family, decided to take up advice from friends to go by boat from Indonesia, and his mother and siblings could follow later.
I just think about my family and then think about the journey I am taking, if it's right or wrong.
It didn't work out as planned. By the time he reached Indonesia with his false passport arranged by a people smuggler, his money had dwindled to $900. There was no room for him on the boat. Those with more money took precedence. He sat on the beach with other hopefuls and watched it go out.
It's a heartbreaking, I want that time crying, screaming, angry, I don't know what to do.
With money and visas running out, the big people smuggling boss had the answer. If Ali worked for him, he'd get all of the family to Australia.
We didn't think about it twice, we said yes.
Did you ever think that what you were doing was wrong?
That time we think about it is just a job. Yeah, it's just, just job, we're doing it. It's not crime or something like that. Yeah, we just help the people.
He got all of his family, his mother, 2 sisters, 3 brothers and an uncle, out on 3 different boats, and then says he began to favour fellow Iraqis in desperate need, charging them less or nothing and trying to make up the difference elsewhere.
They are now here in Australia, they have future, they have everything.
I have respect from everybody. I get to vote and choose the government I want. This is a big deal. So I would seriously do the same thing. I would come on a boat again.
He's not a usual, smuggler. I think everybody thinks about Ali in that way is committing a big mistake.
Ali Al Jenabi, he's absolutely hero. I'll be honest with you.
The Iraqi community in Sydney heaps praise on Ali Al Jenabi at every turn, especially those he got here safely, free of charge, like this man and his family who had only $200 for the journey.
He take the money from his right hand and he give it to me back in the left one. He said, I'm not working for the money.
But time was up for Ali Al Jenabi. He was arrested by Interpol and extradited to Australia, where he spent 4 years in Darwin prison after favourable comments from the judge.
Mr Al Jenabi was described by his barrister in his criminal trial as the Oscar Schindler of our times, and the judge in sentencing him accepted that what he'd done was done out of humanitarian motivations.
On release in 2006, he was sent to Villawood Detention Centre, something the Human Rights Commission says should never have happened. In the 18 months spent there, ASIO gave him a security clearance and an Immigration Department officer recommended he be given a permanent protection visa. She said in this case, the applicant has not engaged in violence, drugs or property damage. He apparently had no intention of becoming a people smuggler until he'd been cheated of his money. But the government had other ideas.
There was interference at the political level with what the department should have done.
Ali Al Jenabi's lawyer launched a case in the federal court in 2007, demanding his client's visa be decided. The court agreed. But now the Labor government ruled there were character issues. People smugglers of any description were its #1 enemy.
People smugglers are engaged in the world's most evil trade, and they should all rot in jail because they represent the absolute scum of the earth.
I think it's a political game between the two parties, and then I'm stuck in it.
Finally, Ali Al Jenabi was granted a bridging visa, which means he can be sent back to Iraq at any time. He says employers here won't take him on and he can't get educational training. He has a 9-year-old daughter in Indonesia he can't see or bring here to visit.
I think I am being, it's too much. If they believe the justice system, I already done my time. I done my jail. I just want to move on with my life. I want to have family, kids, build up for this country. That's all what I want. I don't want to, suffer as much as I now. Yeah.
In a statement late today from the Immigration Department, a spokesman said there would be no apology and no compensation for Mr Al Jenabi because of his significant criminal history. His bridging visa remained in place.
Heather Hewitt reporting.